Testing, testing. Afternoon, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to get started in a few minutes. Now would be a good time to turn off or silence.
Well, friends, good afternoon. My name is Reverend Dr. David Goldberg, and it's my honor to be here this afternoon to facilitate this remembrance for one who was certainly among us for too short a time. If you would please join me in a moment of grounding as we each acknowledge the higher power of our understanding. How good it is to come together, eye to eye, face to face, heart to heart, as we remember Derek James Goodnow, an extraordinary being who had his own understanding of his higher power, one who believed in Jesus, one who loved Jesus. And so we come together today in that spirit of love. We come together in that spirit of grace, releasing the busyness of the day, the good, the bad, the interesting, allowing ourselves to be fully present as we honor Derek and we support his amazing family. So we just know that everything that needs to be said is said, that which needs to be heard is heard, all that needs to be released is gently released back to the nothingness from which it came. And we continue in a space of grace. We continue in a space of honoring. We continue in a space of understanding. And most of all, we continue in a space of love. I release, I let go, I allow it to be. And so it is. Amen. So as we start this day, I am struck by people of all ages coming together. For some, perhaps a first significant loss. For some, perhaps one in a long line. And for many, perhaps something in between. And as I shared with Kylie and Matt, having had the honor of working with a number of families through this process, all losses are hard when we're separated from someone we love, when we're separated from our blood, rather either by birth or by choice. It's a challenge. And it's even more so when a parent has to say goodbye to a child, and when a grandparent has to say goodbye to a grandchild. So we are with you, beloved family. We don't claim to know or understand your pain. Just know that our love, our support, our prayers, our energy, whatever the frame of reference, whatever the context, we offer it to you and for you on this day. And if you would please welcome Kylie to share some highlights and remembrances of Derek.
They're supporting me. I know you all are too. Derek was born at midnight. When my mom and midwife told me that he was a boy, I was angry. He was supposed to be a girl. My mom consoled me. She reminded me that I was still the queen of the castle, and I needed to be. Then Derek latched on to nurse, and he latched onto my heart at the same time. From the beginning, Derek was so easy. He slept well, he ate well, and he smiled so much, and he had such a beautiful, contagious smile. He always looked up to his big brother, Dylan, for all things. Derek didn't even walk until he was almost 2 because Dylan brought him whatever he needed. Anyone that knew Derek loved him because he was so sweet, and he really didn't get into trouble unless he was directed by somebody else. Followed along. Derek and Dylan were a dynamic force, and they did everything together, good and bad. They were an earthquake mixed with a tornado, to say the least. One example is when the boys were toddlers, Dylan climbed out of his crib, then he helped Derek out of his crib, and then they tore their room up. Oh my gosh. No matter what, Derek and Dylan always had each other and were best friends from the beginning. Derek was always saying and doing quirky things. He was always 100% honest. One time when I told him I loved him, he told me, "I strongly enjoy your presence." Hey, Derek. Thanks. When he was a toddler, he would chug down a sippy cup in seconds. It was crazy. And then throw it. We lost many out the car window while driving in creeks, rivers, everywhere due to Derek. He used to insist on wearing his shirts inside out and backwards. He hated chocolate, but loved raw kale. He had the most hair, and it grew at warp speed, just like the rest of him, reaching 6'5". Derek was one of the most giving and loyal people I knew. There are so many stories that I could share about him. Like the one where he was 17 at a party and he called me to ask permission to try some pot. True story. But the one that is quintessentially Derek is when he was 4, maybe 5 years old, and he painted a ceramic pot in daycare. It was for a fundraiser they were having, but Derek didn't know that. He didn't realize it. And when he realized that he couldn't take it home and give it to mommy, he painted, in his mind, he painted it for mommy. He was unconsolable. And that was Derek. He just wanted to give. He had the biggest heart ever. Derek loved his brothers and sisters so much. He loved all animals, including his cats, loved his family so much. He used to say he was going to grow up and work at Domino's just like his dad. And he did. We lost someone so special, someone that we will never get back. Let's all take Derek's giving heart and quirky sense of humor and spread it around, because I made our world a more pleasant place. And that's what he would want. And that's how I choose to remember my boy, with one dimple and a mop of hair, happy, laughing, and being so sweet.
Thank you. Our first scripture reading this afternoon is the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. As we have already acknowledged, and it is so difficult not to acknowledge, the family has asked me to share a poem with you, Dying Young. Sometimes it's hard to understand why someone so young should have to die. No reasons are given. It just happens that way. There's nothing we can do, nothing we can say. Our time here on earth, we will transcend. Here is not forever, and life doesn't end. There is a place through an open door. It will be familiar, for we've all been there before. So don't dwell on death, for it's not the end. Spirit is eternal, my dear, dear friend. And I would direct your attention to the video screens. So, my friends, you go for it, little one. You work those lungs. You are welcome here and you are awesome. As I was saying, we come into this time with a range of emotions as deep and complex as the man we are remembering. Here, there is love and the searing pain of separation. Here, there is anger. Here, there are questions. And some of you feel bruised by Derek's death. While his life had its painful moments, it also had its moments of delight and happiness that Kylie was sharing so beautifully, of caring, of friendship, of sharing, and of love. And that is where you all come in. When a death such as this cuts across life in its fullness, we're left with a certain incompleteness. We know that Derek leaves much unfinished, unfulfilled, and unsaid. There are still so many things you wanted to do with him, and he with you. Graduations and weddings and anniversaries, birthday celebrations, more conversations with his beloved family, more hijinks with his brother, more interactions with each and every one of you, and even a chat, a conversation, a chance to catch up, a chance to share how much he cared about you and you about him. He still had many meals to cook. He had games to play. He had drone flights to maneuver and places to visit and talk about, and people to meet. There were so many more people to meet and to respect and to love. Perhaps Derek's greatest legacy is that he cared about people. And Kylie and Matt and Courtney, every person here today loved Derek and continues to love you. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They don't know what you need, and they love you. As you as you navigate this next new chapter in your life, that's all you need to know. You are the perfect children in whom God is well pleased. Allow your friends and family members in. Please don't do this alone. The sadness of the loss of this life, full and blossoming, mingles with the sadness for the loss of possibilities not realized. We gather to honor Derek's memory and to support one another in grieving a death. What we know to be true is that while Derek has released his physical body, the suffering does not end for those who have loved and cared for him. Friends and family are left with the myriad of feelings, including, in time, compassion and forgiveness. Many of you who knew Derek know that he identified as a Christian and loved Jesus. So based on what he believed and with the support of his family, today we celebrate his life in broader terms and with gratitude that he was among us. As I was meditating on my message today, I was struck by the words of Comte, a French philosopher, one of the fathers of sociology, and considered the founder of the doctrine of positivism, who said, "The sacred formula of positivism, love as a principle, the order as a foundation, and progress as a goal." So today, my friends, whatever progress on your grief path looks like for you, please feel comfortable in expressing that. Of course, there are tears. I love that there are smiles. I love that there are those pensive moments, and I appreciate the opportunity for strangers to connect in the loss of one so dear. I've also been doing some reading by Stephen Cave and his interpretation of immortality. He suggests that there are 4 stories that we tell ourselves about death and immortality. One is the fountain of youth, the magic elixir. 2 is the resurrection story, that somewhere, somehow, we will be resurrected. The 3rd is the story of the soul, that we come back for more. And the 4th is that of legacy. We live with a focus on how we want to be remembered. And I pause there for just a moment to speak about legacy. For some, it may seem a little incongruous to think about a legacy for one who was so young when he left this physical plane. For others, you knew Derek, you loved him for so many reasons, and you're interested in continuing his legacy. How can I continue what he taught me? How can I continue what I learned from him? And sometimes we get a little wound up in our humanness around that. I invite you to consider whatever you loved most about Derek is what he loved about you. If you appreciated his love of the outdoors, if you appreciated his athleticism and climbing 14ers, I have to think about it before I drive 14,000 feet. If you loved his love of animals, if you so appreciated his love of family and his care for his siblings, if you appreciated how he showed up in his marriage to his beloved wife, whatever you loved about Derek, he loved about you. Because you see, we can't see that which we don't already possess. So when you get tied up in, how can I remember this great guy? All you have to do is get up and show up and do what is in front of you to do. You see, that's what Derek did. He got up, he showed up, he did what was his to do on that day. So the best way to remember him, the best way to continue his legacy is to continue being you, exactly who you are, exactly the way you are doing you. And then I would add perhaps a 5th option as we think about a story of immortality. And that is your life as a book. The book is bounded by birth and death. It doesn't make much sense to fear what happens before birth or after death. So while we mourn that Derek is no longer with us, let's also remember to be grateful that he was here. The only thing that matters is that you try to make a good story. So again, on behalf of the whole family, thank you for your prayers, your positive thoughts, your high vibrations, your wonderful consciousness. Everything that you are sending the family's way, physical and non-physical, is felt and appreciated beyond measure. And please continue to remember Derek in ways that are perfect for you. So what that might look like is a random Tuesday in 5 months, you hear that song, or you see that video, or you hear that passage, or you see that meme, or you read that social media post, and you're like, oh my gosh, there he is. And that brings a smile to your face, right? And then once again, the humanness kicks in. Well, I don't want to reach out to the family because perhaps they're having a good day and I don't want to make them feel sad. Well, my friends, the family is never going to forget that Derek is no longer here in physical form. And what I can tell you is whenever you have that memory, if it brought a smile to your face, it will bring a smile to any member of Derek's family's face. So reach out, make that call, drop by the house, send a text, let them know that you're thinking about him in that space. So again, we're here to express our love. We're here to express our belief in immortality. You know, that is one of the golden threads of all of the world's religious and spiritual traditions. Something in us really wants to believe in immortality. And it is just as mysterious as that other universal experience that every one of us in this room shares. And that is the mystery of birth. Let's think about the parallels for just a moment. If somehow we could communicate with the baby just before birth and ask him what life is like, he would tell us about the warmth and the security, the love and the comfort, the great mother heart beating a rhythm of peace. How could we tell him about life outside? Really, we couldn't, because he has no experience with which to compare it, no point of reference to help him understand, no context. We might try to say it this way: you will awaken in a world of indescribable light and beauty. You will be free to move about and savor new experiences. The world will seem strange at first, but loving hands will welcome you. Loving arms will encircle you. The loving source of all good in whom you live right now will continue to supply your every need. And you won't really go anywhere. You are already in that wider world now. It is just that your possibility of expression will expand within that world. You will be free to move about and express life in your own way. And we might caution him that although the transition may be strange and even painful, the ultimate experience of life would make it all worthwhile. Now, isn't it possible that Derek is having an experience just like this, being lovingly and warmly received by the loving presence in whom he lived while on this physical plane? Isn't it reasonable to believe that what Derek has experienced is simply a new birth into expanded consciousness? So how shall we think of Derek in this new experience? What is he like? Maybe the same as here, but expanded and without limitation. Surely he knew what to do with life, and our conviction is that life never ends. I say to you, when it is ready to lay aside this physical form, when we are ready to release these biodegradable flesh suits, in order to take on the next form of manifestation, we should do so in a natural way. The Bible says that there is a body celestial and a body terrestrial. I believe that Derek moved calmly and naturally out of one and into the other, breathing in with this mortal form and breathing out with the spiritual form. That's not to say that sadness is unnatural. There's a natural tendency to be sad when we are separated from someone we love. But my friends, let us remember, in that sadness, it is not for Derek, but for ourselves that we grieve. Perhaps it's a little like we would feel if a dear friend had the unexpected good fortune to win a trip around the world, a trip that would take him away from us for an extended period. How would we feel as we saw our friend off at the airport? Well, we'd probably have mixed feelings. Excuse me. Sadness at the prospect of physical separation, and happiness in seeing our loved one experiencing the dream of a lifetime. The seeming separation that we feel helps us to see the deeper truth. We are immortal now. Our oneness with those we love is in consciousness, and this oneness is still with us. Derek's spirit soars, completely free from all illness and pain. And that, beloveds, is what immortality means. And now, from the more spiritual perspective, the mystic poet Kahlil Gibran on death. And then Almitra spoke, saying, we would ask now of death. And he said, you would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it first in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling, that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his own trembling? For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing, but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then you will truly dance. Dr. Seuss said it much more succinctly. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. And that is the energy that Derek's beloved family is inviting you into. Of course, we are sad that he is no longer with us. And what joy he spread in the 25 short years that he was here. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. And from Psalms 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. And finally, my friends, as we move toward a conclusion of this part of our ritual, one more piece that the family wanted me to share with you, recognizing that we are all successful in our lives, recognizing that you too are extraordinarily important to your family, to your friends, to your circle of influence, to your tribe, to your family of choice. This is called The Man is a Success by Robert Louis Stevenson. The man is successful who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has gained the respect of intelligent men and the love of children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who leaves the world better than he found it, whether by an improved poppy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who never lacked appreciation of the earth's beauty or failed to express it, who looked for the best in others and gave the best he had. And finally, friends, as we move toward a close, the family would like to invite you to a reception at the Goodnow home immediately following our service to continue the conversation. Please share your stories, share your slightly off-color jokes, share those adventures. I love that he called his mom to ask if he could smoke pot. I don't think I've known anybody else who has done that. What an extraordinary being. That speaks to his integrity. That speaks to his love of self. That speaks to his respect for his parents and so much more. So please share those stories with his wife, with his parents, with his siblings, with his grandparents. That is how we keep memories alive. And now if we could bring forth the bearers to escort the casket out with the family. And so, my friends, we bless the memory, we honor the legacy of Derek James Goodnow. And as you go forth on this day, go in power, go in peace.
And